The massive space station looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in the darkness. Inside its bright halls, alien beings from across the galaxy walked with important steps. Today was not a normal day. The Galactic Council was meeting because of one problem that made them all angry: humans. Admiral Tejo stood at the front of the great meeting room. His skin was covered in green scales that shined under the bright lights. His yellow eyes looked at the other leaders with hate. He was from the Viridian Empire, one of the strongest forces in the galaxy. For 3,000 years, his people had ruled over dozens of star systems. Now these new creatures called humans were making trouble. "Look at this," Tejo said as he pressed a button. The air above the table filled with moving pictures. They showed human ships flying near the edges of Viridian space. The ships were small and looked weak, but they were there where they should not be. "These humans think they can take our mining worlds. They think they can steal what belongs to us." Commander Yina nodded her head. She came from the Stellar Confederation, another powerful group of worlds. Her people looked almost human, but had silver skin and no hair. She had been fighting wars for 50 years and thought she knew everything about enemies. "Our spy ships have watched them for months. They have maybe 200 warships. That is nothing compared to what we have." Other leaders around the table began to talk at the same time. They were angry and wanted to do something fast. The humans had appeared in their galaxy only 100 years ago. At first, the aliens had thought these new beings were just another weak race that would serve the strong. But humans kept growing. They built new colonies, they made trade deals. They acted like they owned the space around their worlds. The worst part was that humans did not bow down to the older races. When the Galactic Council sent messages telling them to follow the ancient laws, humans would send polite answers that really meant no. They would not pay taxes to the Council. They would not stop building new settlements. They acted like they had the right to do whatever they wanted. Supreme Chancellor Morthak raised all four of his arms to make everyone quiet. He was the leader of the Council and came from a very old race. His people had been traveling between stars when most other races were still living in caves. His body was tall and thin, with purple skin and eyes that glowed like small fires. "We all know why we are here," Morthak said in his deep voice that seemed to shake the room. "The human problem has gone on too long. They take our territories, they refuse to follow our laws. They show no respect for the natural order of things." At the back of the room, one person sat alone. Ambassador Dong-Su was the only human in the chamber. He was old, with gray hair and tired eyes. For 10 years, he had tried to keep peace between his people and the rest of the galaxy. The other aliens never listened to him with respect. To them, he was just a pet that could talk. "The solution is simple," said General Buram from the War Council. His race looked like giant insects with sharp claws for hands. "We send our fleets to human space. We destroy their ships and take their worlds. Then we sell the humans as workers to anyone who wants them." Many voices agreed with this idea. The room filled with excited talk about dividing human territories. Some wanted the mining rights. Others wanted to take human technology. A few just wanted to make an example that would scare other young races. Dong-Su stood up slowly. The room became quiet as everyone looked at him. He was not very tall compared to most aliens, and his simple clothes made him look even smaller. But his voice was steady when he spoke. "Honored council members," he began, "I ask you to think carefully about this path. My people want only to live in peace. We have never attacked your worlds or threatened your people. The territories you claim we have stolen were empty when we found them." Admiral Tejo laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Empty? Those systems belong to the Viridian Empire. We have claimed them for 2,000 years. "But you never built anything there," Dong-Su replied. "No bases, no colonies, no mining stations. How can you own something you never use?" This made the aliens even more angry. Commander Yina stood up and pointed at the human. "You dare to question our ancient rights? Your whole race has existed in space for barely 100 years. We were crossing the galaxy when your world was still covered in ice." "That may be true," Dong-Su said calmly. But age does not give anyone the right to take what others have built with their own hands. Supreme Chancellor Morthak had heard enough. He activated the official recording system and spoke in the formal language used for important decisions. Let it be recorded that the Galactic Council has voted. The human race has 7 standard time cycles to remove all their people, ships, and equipment from the disputed territories. If they refuse, the combined fleets of the Council will remove them by force. The numbers appeared on screens around the room. 3,200 warships from 12 different empires. Massive carriers that could hold hundreds of fighter craft. Battleships with weapons that could crack planets. Dreadnoughts so large that small ships could fly through their engine ports. 7 days, Morthak continued. After that time, any human presence in the disputed zones will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council. Ambassador Dongsu looked around the room at all the hostile faces staring at him. These beings had made their choice. They thought humans were weak and would run away when threatened. He had tried for years to make them understand that his people were not like other races they had conquered. "I will carry your message to my government," Dongsu said quietly. "But I must warn you, my people do not scare easily, and we do not abandon what we have built. Then your people will die," Admiral Tejo said with a cruel smile, "and the galaxy will finally learn what happens to those who challenge their betters." As the council session ended, the alien leaders began planning how to divide human space among themselves. They talked about which colonies would make the best slave camps and which human technologies they wanted to steal. None of them noticed the small smile on Ambassador Dongsu's face as he quietly left the chamber. The message would reach Earth in 2 days. And then, these proud alien races would learn that humans had been preparing for this moment for much longer than anyone imagined. Deep under the city of New Geneva, President Subin sat in a room that few people knew existed. The walls were made of metal that could stop any weapon known to humans. The ceiling showed a perfect copy of the night sky, but the stars were not, just pretty lights. Each one marked the location of human settlements across the galaxy. Around the large table sat the most important military leaders of humanity. These were not the officers that alien spies had been watching. Those people commanded the ships that everyone could see. The real power of Earth's military sat in this hidden room, and they had been waiting for this day for many years. "Madam President," said Admiral J1 as he activated the message system. His uniform looked simple, but the small badges on his chest told the story of battles fought in places that did not exist on any public star map. "The ultimatum arrived from the Galactic Council 30 minutes ago. They want us to leave 17 star systems within 1 week. The message played in the center of the table. Supreme Chancellor Morthak's voice filled the room with threats and demands. President Subin listened without showing any emotion on her face. She had been expecting this day since she first took office 5 years ago. "What do our visible forces look like?" she asked. Defense Minister Hana touched her control pad and numbers appeared in the air. "The Sol Defense Force has 197 active ships that alien observers can detect. 15 battleships, 40 cruisers, 60 destroyers, and 82 smaller craft. Against their 3,000 ships, any direct fight would be suicide." General Kyung-ho leaned forward. He was the oldest person in the room and had gray scars on his hands from working in the secret shipyards when he was young. "Our intelligence reports show they are moving fast. The Viridian Empire has already started loading troops onto their carriers. The Stellar Confederation is bringing up their siege weapons. They plan to make an example of us that will scare every other young race in the galaxy." President Subin stood and walked to the wall display. She touched a section that looked empty, and suddenly it filled with red dots. Hundreds of them, then thousands. "Show them the real numbers, Admiral." Admiral J1's fingers moved over. His controls. The display changed completely. What had looked like mostly empty space around human territories now blazed with light. Hidden bases appeared behind asteroids. Camouflaged shipyards revealed themselves in the darkness between stars. Secret weapons platforms showed their true positions. "Project Silent Guardian has been running for 43 years, Admiral J1 said. "Since the day we first made contact with alien races and realized they saw us as prey. While they watched, our real navy of 200 ships, we built 5,000 more. the room filled with quiet satisfaction. Everyone here had played a part in the greatest deception in human history. Every time an alien spy ship came to watch human space, they saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. Weak defenses. Small fleets. A young race that had grown too fast and would be easy to crush. "How did we hide so much for so long?" asked Intelligence Director Minwoo. He was new to this level of clearance and still amazed by what he was learning. "We learned from Earth's history," explained Admiral Jaewon. "During World War II, humans used fake armies to fool their enemies. We did the same thing, but across hundreds of star systems. Every mining operation had hidden weapons. Every research station was really a disguised fortress. Every civilian construction platform could build warships." Defense Minister Hana brought up detailed plans. "The aliens think all human ships are built at the Mars shipyards and the Luna orbital platforms. They count every ship that comes out of those facilities. What they do not know is that we have 37 other shipyards in places they have never looked." "Where?" asked President Subin. "Inside hollow asteroids, hidden in gas clouds where their sensors cannot see, built into the dark sides of dead worlds. We even have construction platforms that look like space debris but can build a battleship in 6 months." The president studied the strategic displays. Human technology had advanced much faster than the aliens realized. While they were busy fighting each other over old territories, humans had been learning and growing. Every contact with alien traders brought new knowledge. Every diplomatic meeting revealed more about their enemies' weaknesses. "What about our special weapons?" she asked. Admiral Jaewon smiled for the first time during the meeting. "The Ghost Fleet has capabilities that no alien race has ever seen. Our stealth technology is 50 years ahead of anything they can detect. Our weapons can fire from distances they think are impossible. And our defensive systems—" He paused and brought up a new display. It showed a human ship being hit by alien weapons that should have destroyed it completely. Instead, the ship barely had a scratch. "How?" President Subin asked. "Humans are very good at learning from mistakes," said General Kyung-ho. "Every time an alien empire conquered a younger race, we studied what went wrong. We learned that most space battles are won by whoever sees the enemy first and hits the hardest. So we built ships that are invisible until they want to be seen, and weapons that can destroy anything with one shot." The president walked back to her chair. The weight of command had never felt heavier. In 7 days, the combined might of the galaxy would come to crush humanity. But instead of fear, she felt something else: pride. Her people had spent almost half a century preparing for this moment. "Activate Protocol Omega," she said in a voice that was heard by secret bases across human space. "Phase 1 begins immediately." Admiral Jaewon sent coded messages through channels that alien intelligence had never discovered. On distant worlds, huge hangar doors that had not opened in decades began to move. In asteroid fields, shapes that looked like rocks revealed their true nature as massive warships powered up for the first time in years. "Orders for the visible fleet?" asked Defense Minister Hana. "Pull them back to Earth," President Subin replied. "Let the aliens think we are running scared. Let them believe their threats worked. When they arrive at our colonies expecting easy victories, they will find something very different waiting for them." Space Command Admiral Dong-hyun received his activation codes while sitting in his office on Mars. For 20 years, he had commanded ships that everyone could see while secretly controlling forces that existed only in classified files. Tomorrow, those hidden fleets would finally reveal themselves. Across human space, officers who had spent their entire careers pretending to be civilian captains and mining supervisors began their real jobs. Stealth ships that had been running silent for decades started their engines. Weapons platforms that had disguised themselves as research stations began charging their main guns. The aliens were about to discover that humans had learned the most important lesson from Earth's long history of warfare. The best defense is a good offense, and the best offense is one your enemy never sees coming. In 7 days, the Galactic Council would learn that threatening humanity was the biggest mistake they had ever made. The Galactic Council's war fleet moved through space like a storm of metal and energy. 3,000 ships of every size and type formed a line that stretched across light years. At the front, Admiral Tae-ho sat in his command chair aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to turn a planet into burning rock. "Status report," Tae-ho ordered as his crew worked at their stations. "All fleets report ready for battle," said his second-in-command. "The humans have been pulling their ships back toward their home worlds. Our advanced scouts report no resistance at the border systems." Admiral Tae-ho allowed himself a satisfied smile. As expected, the humans were running like frightened animals. Their few warships had been spotted retreating deeper into their own territory. Some had even sent out distress signals asking for help from neutral worlds. "Cowards," muttered Captain Insu from his ship nearby. He commanded a stellar Confederation battlecruiser that bristled with weapon systems. They talk big when they feel safe, but now they show their true nature. The alien fleet was confident and had good reason to be. The Viridian Empire alone had been fighting wars for 3,000 years. Their ships were tested in hundreds of battles against dozens of different enemies. The Stellar Confederation had weapons that could punch through any known armor. Other council members brought their own special advantages. Stealth technology, energy shields, fighters that could attack faster than most races could even see them. What could humans do against such power? They were a young race with only 100 years in space. Their ships were built with simple designs and basic weapons. Intelligence reports said they had never even fought a real space war against anyone. "First target is the new Busan colony," Admiral Tae-ho announced to all ships in the fleet. "We will make an example there that the whole galaxy will remember. After we destroy their orbital stations and capture the planet, other human worlds will surrender without fighting." New Busan was a perfect choice for their demonstration. It was a farming world with 3 million human settlers. The planet had light defenses and only a few patrol ships. When the Council fleet arrived, they would record everything and broadcast it across the galaxy. Every young race would see what happened to those who challenged the established order. The journey to New Busan took 3 days. During that time, the alien commanders made their plans. They would surround the planet and demand surrender. When the humans refused, as they surely would, the fleet would demonstrate its power by destroying the orbital farming stations one by one. If that was not enough, they would bombard military targets on the planet's surface. "Remember," Admiral Tae-ho told his captains, "we want survivors to spread the word. Do not destroy everything at once. Make them watch their defenses crumble. Break their spirit before we break their bodies." But as the great fleet approached New Busan, strange things began to happen. Space around the planet looked almost empty except for a few civilian cargo ships that seemed to be evacuating people. Human patrol boats had disappeared completely. It was as if the entire population had given up without a fight. "Perfect," said Captain Insu over the communications channel. "They are not even going to try to defend themselves. This will be easier than we thought." The alien fleet spread out around New Busan like hunters surrounding cornered prey. Thousands of sensors swept the area looking for hidden weapons or defensive systems. They found nothing dangerous. A few old satellites, some communication relays, a mining platform in the asteroid belt that looked abandoned. "All ships prepare for demonstration bombardment," Admiral Tae-ho commanded. "We will begin with the orbital farms, then move to—" His words stopped in his throat. Every screen on his bridge suddenly filled with warning signals, proximity alarms, screamed as sensors detected massive objects appearing from nowhere. The empty space around his fleet was no longer empty. Ships materialized out of what had looked like vacuum. Not small patrol boats or desperate defense platforms, but enormous warships that dwarfed even the largest alien dreadnoughts. They appeared on all sides of the Council fleet, surrounding the surprised attackers completely. "Where did they come from?" shouted Captain Insu as his own sensors went crazy with new contacts. "They were not there 30 seconds ago." The first thing the aliens noticed was the size of the human ships. The largest Council dreadnought was 5 kilometers long. The smallest human vessel now visible was 8 kilometers. Some of the new arrivals were so big that fighter squadrons could have flown through their engine exhaust without touching the sides. "Stealth technology," Admiral Tae-ho whispered as understanding hit him. "But this is impossible. Our intelligence," said humans had no advanced stealth capabilities. More shapes revealed themselves throughout the system. What the aliens had taken for asteroids suddenly blazed with engine lights as massive weapons platforms came online. Mining stations that looked abandoned opened up like flowers, revealing gun batteries that could have served as main weapons on capital ships. The communication systems filled with a human voice speaking in perfectly clear galactic standard. Attention, Galactic Council Forces. This is Admiral Minho of the Human Defense Fleet. You have entered protected space without permission while carrying weapons of war. You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be escorted from this system. On his bridge, Admiral Tejo stared at the tactical displays in shock. The numbers made no sense. His sensors were detecting over 800 human warships in the immediate area. That was 4 times more than all human ships that were supposed to exist. This has to be a trick, he said to his bridge crew. Some kind of holographic deception. Humans do not have technology like this. But his weapons officer was pale with fear as he studied the energy readings. Sir, those ships are real, and their weapons are charging to firing levels. Power signatures are off the charts. More human voices came over the communication channels, ship captains announcing their vessels and positions. The names alone should have been impossible. 5th Ghost Squadron, 12th Stealth Division, Hidden Fleet Command. These units did not exist in any intelligence report. Admiral, his communications officer reported with a shaking voice, we are receiving similar messages from all the other systems we plan to attack. Human fleets are appearing everywhere. The forces at the Kepler mining station report being surrounded by over 200 enemy ships. Captain Insu's voice crackled over the fleet channel, filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Where were they hiding all these ships? From the human flagship came Admiral Minho's voice again, calm and professional. You have 60 seconds to begin powering down your weapon systems. After that time, we will consider you hostile forces and act accordingly. Admiral Tejo looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were veterans who had fought in dozens of battles against enemies across the galaxy. He had never seen them look frightened before, but now they stared at their screens showing impossible numbers of enemy contacts. Sir, whispered his tactical officer, recommend we comply. We cannot fight these odds. The proud Viridian admiral felt something he had not experienced in 50 years of warfare: complete helplessness. His great fleet that had seemed so powerful was now trapped like insects in a web. Worse, he was beginning to understand that everything his people knew about humans was wrong. All ships, he said in a voice that sounded old and tired. Power down weapon systems. Comply with human instructions. Across the system, the most powerful war fleet in galactic history began to surrender without firing a shot. And in the darkness of space, Admiral Minho smiled as he watched his sensors. This was only the beginning. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began in panic. Representatives who had been confident and threatening just days before now filled the chamber with frightened voices. The holographic displays showed reports from across the galaxy that made no sense according to everything they thought they knew about humans. Supreme Chancellor Morthak stood at the center of the chaos, his forearms shaking as he tried to read the incoming messages. His purple skin had turned pale and his glowing eyes had dimmed with shock. This cannot be accurate, he said to his aides. Check all the reports again. But the reports kept coming, and they all told the same impossible story. Human fleets were appearing in systems where no humans were supposed to be. Ships that were larger and more advanced than anything in the Council databases. Weapons that worked in ways alien scientists said were impossible. The Kepler mining operation reports being surrounded by 200 human warships, read General Buram, his insect-like claws clicking nervously on his datapad. The Vega trade route has been blocked by human forces that appeared from nowhere. Our border stations near the neutral zone are reporting human ships that are not responding to any attempts at communication. Admiral Tejo sat in his chair like a broken man. His great dreadnought was now being escorted by human vessels that could have crushed it without effort. The proud warrior who had demanded the destruction of humanity just 1 week ago could barely lift his head to speak. They knew he whispered. They knew we were coming. They were ready for us. Commander Yina activated her personal communication device with hands that would not stop shaking. I'm getting reports from our intelligence networks. Human ships are appearing in systems where our best spy satellites never detected any construction. It is as if they built entire fleets in invisible shipyards. The chamber doors opened, and everyone turned to see Ambassador Dongsu walking in with confident steps. But he was not alone. Behind him came other humans wearing military uniforms that no alien had ever seen before. These were not the simple Defense Force officers that Council intelligence had been tracking. These people had the bearing of commanders who controlled real power. Honored Council members, Dongsu said as he took his place at the front of the chamber. His voice was no longer humble or pleading. I believe you wanted to discuss new arrangements between humanity and the rest of the galaxy, Fleet Admiral. Dayun stepped forward. She was a small woman by human standards, but her presence seemed to fill the enormous chamber. The medals and badges on her dark uniform told stories of battles and victories that the aliens were only now beginning to understand. For 43 years, Admiral Daun began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Humanity has been building what we call the Ghost Fleet. While your intelligence services counted our visible navy of 200 ships, we were actually constructing over 5,000 additional vessels in locations you never thought to look. The chamber fell completely silent, except for the soft humming of translation devices working overtime. The numbers were so large that some alien languages did not even have words for fleets of that size. Impossible, muttered Supreme Chancellor Morthak. Our sensors would have detected construction on that scale. Our spy networks watch every human world. Admiral Dayun smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Your spy networks watch exactly what we want them to watch. Every mining operation you ignored was actually a military facility. Every research station you dismissed was really a weapons platform. Every civilian construction project you thought was harmless was building warships. Captain Su Jin activated a massive holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The aliens gasped as they saw the true scope of human military assets for the first time. Hidden bases inside hollow asteroids, camouflaged shipyards in the hearts of nebulae, entire fleets that had been running silent for decades, waiting for this moment. How? Asked Commander Yina, her silver skin now completely white with shock. How did you hide so much from us? We learned from your own histories, Admiral Dawn replied. Every time your empires conquered a younger race, we studied what went wrong. We learned that most civilizations fail because they show their enemies exactly where to attack. So we decided to do the opposite. The display changed to show human space as the aliens had always seen it. A few dozen worlds with light defenses and small patrol fleets. Then the image shifted to reveal the truth. Thousands of hidden facilities. Secret bases and star systems the Council had never explored. Weapons platforms disguised as space junk and abandoned satellites. Every asteroid mining operation had hidden missile launchers, continued Captain Sujin. Every space telescope was actually a sensor station watching your fleets. Every civilian transport ship could transform into a warship when needed. You were never fighting 200 human vessels. You were looking at the front lines of a military force larger than all your empires combined. General Buram's claws scraped against the metal table as he tried to process what he was hearing. But our intelligence networks are the best in the galaxy. How could we be so wrong about everything? Because humans are very good at showing people what they want to see, Admiral Da-Yoon answered. You wanted to believe we were weak, so we acted weak. You wanted to think we were afraid, so we acted afraid. You never bothered to look deeper because the truth we showed you fit your expectations perfectly. Supreme Chancellor Morthak finally found his voice again. What do you want from us? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had been the ones making demands. Now they were reduced to asking for mercy from a race they had tried to destroy. We want what we have always wanted, President Subin said as she entered the chamber. To be left alone to grow and prosper in peace. But since you forced this conflict, she gestured to Admiral Da-Yoon, who brought up new displays showing human fleets positioned throughout known space. Every major trade route was now under human observation. Every council military base had human ships watching from the shadows. The Ghost Fleet will remain active and visible, President Subin continued. Any civilization that threatens human interests, or the interests of those under our protection, will discover that what you have seen so far represents only our conventional forces. The threat was clear, even though it was not spoken directly. If this massive fleet was just the conventional forces, what other surprises did humanity have hidden? We offer formal surrender, Supreme Chancellor Morthak said, his voice barely above a whisper. Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories, trade agreements that favor human interests. Whatever you require. Other council members began speaking at the same time, each trying to offer better terms than their rivals. Mining rights, territorial concessions, technology transfers, everything that had once belonged to the great empires was now being offered to humanity like gifts from beggars. President Subin listened to each desperate offer with the patience of someone who had always known this moment would come. When the last council member finished speaking, she stood up. The Ghost Fleet will patrol the galaxy to ensure peace, she announced. Any civilization that can live with that arrangement will find humanity to be a generous protector. Those who cannot. She let the sentence hang unfinished. Everyone in the chamber understood what she meant. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Ambassador Dongsu turned back to address the council one final time. You asked for this meeting because you wanted to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy. That discussion is now over. Humanity's place is wherever we choose it to be. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the Ghost Fleet revealed itself, the galaxy had become a very different place. The proud empires that had ruled for thousands of years now sent their most important leaders to Earth like pilgrims seeking forgiveness from an angry god. Ships that had once carried threats and demands now arrived loaded with gifts and desperate promises of friendship. President Subin stood at the observation deck of humanity's new orbital embassy station. The massive structure hung in space above Earth like a silver crown, its corridors filled with alien diplomats who had come to beg for mercy. Through the transparent walls, she could see the ships of former enemies waiting in careful lines, their weapons powered down and their shields lowered in gestures of complete submission. The Viridian Empire delegation has arrived, announced Foreign Minister Wu Jin as he approached with his daily report. Admiral Teho personally leads their group. They are offering exclusive mining rights to their 3 richest systems, plus a tribute payment of 1 million credits per year. President Subin nodded but did not seem impressed. In the past week, she had received similar offers from dozens of civilizations. Territories that had been claimed for millennia were now being given away freely. Trade routes that had made empires, wealthy, were being handed over to human control without argument. The embassy's grand meeting hall had been designed to impress alien visitors, and it worked perfectly. The ceiling showed a real-time view of human space, with tiny lights marking every colony, base, and ship. The walls displayed the names and service records of human officers who commanded the Ghost Fleet. Most importantly, the floor was made of transparent material that let visitors see the massive human warships patrolling below. Supreme Chancellor Morthak entered the hall flanked by guards from 6 different species. The once proud leader of the Galactic Council now walked with small, careful steps. His forearms were held in positions that showed respect and fear to any human who might be watching. Behind him came other council members, each trying to look smaller and less threatening than the last. Honored President Subin, Morthak began, his deep voice now high and shaking. We come before you to formally apologize for our previous misunderstanding regarding humanity's place in the galaxy. President Subin took her seat at the head of the great table. The chair had been built tall enough that she could look down at the alien leaders who had once treated her people like animals. Please, be specific about which misunderstandings you mean. The alien leaders glanced at each other nervously. Commander Yina was the first to speak, her silver skin now permanently pale with stress. We failed to recognize humanity's advanced military capabilities. We made the error of judging your people by incomplete information. You mean you tried to conquer us based on lies your own spies told you? President Subin corrected. Coldly. Yes, Yina whispered. That is exactly what we mean. One by one, the representatives of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy longer than humans had existed began to make their offers. The Viridian Empire offered to become a client state, with all major decisions requiring human approval. The Stellar Confederation wanted to sign a protection agreement that would make them subordinate to human military command. General Buram clicked his claws together in the gesture his species used to show complete defeat. The War Council offers to dissolve itself and place all member fleets under human authority. We recognize that our military planning was inadequate for dealing with human strategic capabilities. But the most surprising offer came from Chancellor Morthak himself. The Galactic Council formally requests that humanity assume the role of primary peacekeeping force for the galaxy. We believe that your unique approach to military planning would benefit all civilized worlds. President Subin almost smiled at the irony. The same council that had voted unanimously to destroy humanity was now begging humans to take over their jobs. And what makes you think we want that responsibility? Because, said a new voice from the back of the room, someone needs to keep the children from fighting over their toys. Everyone turned to see Admiral Daun entering with a group of human military officers. She had been inspecting the defensive systems of former enemy worlds, making sure they understood their new place in the galactic order. Status report, Admiral, President Subin requested. Ghost Fleet units have established monitoring stations in 73 star systems formerly claimed by Council members, Admiral Daun reported. All alien military forces have been reduced to system defense levels only. Long-range offensive capabilities have been transferred to human control or destroyed. She activated a holographic display that showed the new reality of galactic politics. Human ships patrolled every major space route. Human bases monitored all communication channels. Human commanders had effective control over the military forces of every major civilization. More importantly, Admiral Daun continued, the younger races that were being threatened by Council expansion have requested human protection. The Kepler Commonwealth, the Free Traders Alliance, and 17 independent worlds have all asked to join the Human Protection Zone. This news made the alien leaders even more nervous. Not only had humanity defeated the established powers, but they were also winning the loyalty of smaller civilizations that had been victims of Council aggression. We understand your position, said Admiral Tejo, speaking for the first time since arriving. The once proud Viridian commander now looked like a broken old man. We accept that the age of empire building is over. We ask only that you allow our people to live in peace under human guidance. President Subin stood and walked to the great window that looked out over Earth. Below, the blue and green world continued its ancient rotation, beautiful and peaceful. It was hard to believe that this small planet now controlled the destiny of trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy, she said without turning around. We wanted to explore it, to learn from it, to find our place among the stars. But you would not let us do that peacefully. She turned back to face the assembled alien leaders. So now we will ensure that no civilization ever again has to face the choice we faced. Submit or be destroyed. The Ghost Fleet will patrol the galaxy. We will protect the weak from the strong. We will make sure that expansion comes through cooperation, not conquest. The alien delegates looked at each other with expressions of hope mixed with fear. This was better than they had dared to expect, but it also meant the end of everything their civilizations had been for thousands of years. There will be rules, President Subin continued. No military force may attack another without human approval. All territorial disputes will be resolved through human mediation. Any civilization that threatens innocent lives will answer to the Ghost Fleet. And if we obey these rules, asked Chancellor Morthak, then you will find that humans can be generous allies, President Subin replied. We will share our technology. We will protect your trade routes. We will help you solve problems that have troubled your worlds for centuries. But the galaxy will never again see the kind of empire building that led to this crisis. As the formal surrender ceremonies continued through the day, Ambassador Dong-Su found himself reflecting on the strange turns of fate. Just months ago, he had sat alone in the council chambers while alien leaders planned the destruction of his species. Now those same leaders waited in lines for the privilege of speaking with human officials. "Quite a change," said Admiral Minho, as he joined Dong-Su at the observation window. "I always knew this day would come," Dong-Su replied. "I just did not expect it to happen so completely. The Ghost Fleet commanders report that resistance has ended in all sectors," Admiral Minho continued. "Even the most aggressive species have accepted the new order. Some are actually relieved that they no longer have to worry about being conquered by their neighbors." Outside the window, alien ships continued to arrive with more offers of surrender and alliance. The greatest military powers in galactic history had become supplicants to a race they had tried to exterminate. President Subin joined them at the window as the day's negotiations concluded. "Any word from the deep space monitoring stations?" "All quiet," Admiral Minho reported. "The hidden fleets remain in position, watching and waiting. Most of the galaxy still does not know the full extent of our capabilities." "Good," President Subin said. "Let them wonder. A little mystery keeps people honest." As night fell over the embassy station, the lights of human ships could be seen patrolling in perfect formations. The Ghost Fleet had accomplished something that no military force in galactic history had ever achieved: complete victory without a single battle. The greatest conquest in known history had been won not through destruction, but through the revelation of overwhelming strength held in reserve. In the months and years that followed, historians would study the human victory as a perfect example of strategic thinking. But for now, the galaxy rested under the protection of ships that most beings still could not see, commanded by a species that had learned the most important lesson of warfare. The battle you do not have to fight is always the battle you win.